Go ahead and call the meeting to order. All board members are present, so we've established a quorum. We'll stand to do the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Next on the agenda is open forum public input, and I don't see that anybody's here, so we will move to the next thing. Approve agenda, changes to the agenda. Did we have any changes? And we'll need to approve the last agenda, right?
The addition of that second check
Oh,
is the only change that I have.
okay.
So it's under, item E is void checks, but in your narratives,
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
Okay. It's
Well-
essentially E, so you're fine by approving it the way it is. It's just-
Okay. I need a motion to
Approve the agenda with that
approve the
change.
agenda.
With the addition of that second check.
Okay.
Moved by Schoenfelder. Second. Second by Leishner. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried.
All right. Any conflicts of interest? None have been identified. Okay. We'll move to approve consent agenda. A, accept financial reports. B, approve August minutes. C, approve claims. D, approve contracts. There's an employee contract for an additional special education paraprofessional. E is void check. So there's two voided checks,
Yes.
correct?
Yes.
The company issued the check has changed names, thus rendering the previous written check invalid.
The first
And-
one was, yep, and then the other one was it hasn't been cashed for 3 months, so I'm gonna void it.
Okay, okay. And F is approved law seminar attendance request. This is from the district's attorney to support their attendance at the National School Law Seminar.
Clarification on that, I asked Craig, and it seems to be a practice, Craig, correct me if I'm wrong, that the Parsons board has supported in years past, so.
I think-
Mr. Kaufman is your, part of your appointed representative from attorney.
Mr. Freeman.
Or what did I say?
Kaufman.
Sorry, that's Woods and Harris here, but both good guys, but nonetheless. He's asked you before, so that's what
Okay.
that entails.
There was a letter in our packet too from
I think
him,
it's up
right?
$15 from what
Yeah.
it was before.
Yeah.
or something
Okay.
like that, but-
Sounds good, so we just need a motion to approve,
So moved.
and I'll second it.
Moved by Weber and seconded by Nebo to approve the consent agenda. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried.
All right, next on the agenda is information, discussion, and staff reports. First, we have high school principal report.
So if you look at this sheet here that Mr. Norman had created for you, so he's at the football game. So first thing he wanted to address was senior privileges. So I believe that's a notion that he's always asked school board, not necessarily an approval, but more of a blessing. Is how he's described it to me. But he's traditionally given these at the end of the first quarter, which is the end of this week. It's Friday's the end of our first quarter. So if students were well behaved, seniors have been great. He would also like to pin upon that open campus concept of the dual credit notion, which that's what this sheet is here. And the reason for allowing seniors to have senior privileges during a dual credit period within their schedule, it just kind of an incentive. There's mitigation strategies there if the kid falls off the rails, that we can always scoop them up and take away or rescind their privileges, and then they're back in, the SRB or study hall setting or whatever period that's assigned to them to do their dual credit. So he wanted to at least give them the opportunity, and there says, and this is what he's stating, there are studies that say students do better on their dual credits with open campus. Students are failing, they'll lose the privilege required to do those courses at school until they are passing again. It empty out the building a little bit. I mean, we are tight on some space down there. And if we need to get, I think, I'm trying to think of how many kids dual credit, at least are seniors. I know it's double digits that are participating in dual credit courses. So to get them out of here during numerous times. And then it would prevent problems from the beginning and ending of the semesters when they have not started or finished their classes early. Because some of them will finish a little bit early if their professor allows them to do that. So, and he gave you this document here. This is what our neighbors do. You know, and you can see a little bit of a mix there as far as who makes them stay, who lets them go. Some juniors, some seniors, some just seniors. So that's kind of the notion. The document supporting his request, at least the blessing. So
I think they used to have that room where the Trojan den is for them to, right, Tony, if I remember right? And they don't have that space either now for them to go to.
So they're sitting in our study halls and SRBs that are maybe a little bit tight right now as far as numbers. So
And that is where they're doing their dual credit class at that time?
yeah. So like say within a block schedule, you know, if I got 6 classes, maybe second blue, maybe that's my dual credit class. You know, no, not in-house, but that's where I'm supposed to be working on my say English 101 from USB. So right now they're in that study hall setting wherever that happens to be, and that's where we're a little tight on numbers. So allowing them to, okay, dual credit stuff, you want to go, you can go home, I suspect. But he's got strategies in place I feel comfortable with to make sure that those kids are being accountable. You know, scoop them back up if they start dropping the ball on that strategy.
Yeah, we're
So-
talking about just seniors here?
Yep, he just wants seniors for sure. Yep. It doesn't apply to his juniors. So, yeah. So I don't know if you want to address that right now, other than just a blessing. I don't know, Mr. Bruning, you don't.
Usually
know,
it's just
a
that, no,
blessing.
usually it's just, I put in there, Mr. Norton asked the board to allow the
Okay.
seniors to have open campus
Mr.
during their study
Schoenfeld,
halls.
a question?
No, I just was wondering if we need a motion for that.
No.
Normally we don't.
Okay.
Do they have senior privileges starting right from the beginning of the school year?
Ah,
So when will that start?
this is
Just
what
that's what
That's
this
what he's
is.
asking for.
But only for dual credit students or
No,
all
no,
seniors?
All of them.
Okay.
Yeah, all of them.
But
he
it's
just
never
included the dual
included
credit.
the dual credit.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Then,
Yeah.
right?
Yep, it's never included those
Yeah,
before, right?
Okay. Homecoming was a success. Good to see the community coming back together, having a chance to be the students. You know, the weather didn't cooperate the way we wanted it to, but nonetheless, you know, my first experience here, I think you guys got a lot of impressive things going on. I didn't know the community aspect of that pork thing, pork feed that went on there. I was like, oh, holy smokes! That's really a nice addition to that day. I mean, so yeah, it was a good day, even though we got a little wet. I think kids behaved well. I mean, we probably played more games than they were probably used to because we couldn't go outside and do that. And I was impressed with what they actually put together in the short period of time that they had, because it did clear up a little bit enough to get outside and put something representative together on a flatbed. So yeah, it was good. And then just a reminder, he's saying too that conference is on the 26th, and then I think in my notes that evolves that Friday then, or ends with that Friday as being a day off, if you remember right. So Tuesday is the 26th, and then that Friday there's no school for anybody. That's Mr. Norton's report. So.
Thank you.
Yep.
All right, elementary principal AD report.
Alright guys, good evening. I'll start kind of with the elementary report here. I think, from what I could hear there, Mr. Mickinen touched on a couple of things, but 9 weeks is ending this week. So our grades will be getting posted. We'll work on printing report cards next week in preparation for conferences on the 26th. I think Mr. Mickinen brought that up. Last week we worked on fire safety. So we had a couple firemen come in and talk to our preschool through third graders and talk to them a little bit about the safety aspect, but also encourage them and their families to come up with a plan for evacuating their homes and stuff. So it was kind of fun to have them in there. We get started in October now. A big thing for our building has been kind of that social emotional learning and really trying as teachers and as staff. I think it's been happening, but we're trying to really have a common language with that now. So last month with September, we talked about everything is possible. And now as we start October, we're talking about passion first, so helping everyone find their passion. And so that's been a really fun thing for our staff and our kids to really kind of get involved in, and having that common language to really communicate from grade level to grade level has been really good for us. As we continue to work to build really a very inclusive culture within our building. And that's homecoming. That was kind of our goal for homecoming. That each day of the week we wanted to do something to help our students feel like they were a part of it. Because I feel like the more that they can feel connected at the elementary level, that's going to continue to grow and foster as they move up into the high school level. So each day there was a different focus for us that we really wanted to try to elaborate on, to just get kids feeling really connected. Kind of at the end of that week, and this will kind of transition me into the AD part, but we had Friday set up as the band would welcome us in. It was drizzling that day, so we ended up being in the gym, which kind of created an even probably more fun atmosphere for us. So we had the band coming out there playing some kind of school spirit songs that they would maybe play at an athletic event. All the elementary kids in there, and the little ones getting excited about it, and our older ones kind of being encouraged to be excited about it. So that kind of started the day out with a lot of energy for us. And then we went and we had autograph day. So that was a new thing we started this year, where we brought in all the high school, juniors and seniors that were involved in an extracurricular. And we had them in the MPR, and then we brought in our elementary students in 2 waves of kids to get autographs. And again, that bigger picture of them seeing the older ones and really trying to use those high school students as models that they want to grow up to be someday. And so that was kind of a really fun way for us to end the week and kind of gear up into like the parade and finishing the homecoming activities. And with that, then transitioning into sports, into the activities piece, activity director, that was my goal. I talked with Mr. Larson kind of coming into homecoming week. Right now, our band has been active. They've been at a couple competitions and contests in Platt and Menno, and we talked about how do we grow that. And so for me, that was one way that I thought the more we have our little ones seeing the band and realizing how much fun that can be, hopefully, when the sign up comes, they're like, hey, I want to give that a shot. And so that's how that kind of connected. And I think our kids had a lot of fun with that part of it. And same thing going through athletics and into the activities now. Fall sports are wrapping up we're kind of gearing up for the end here. Our golf team finished up their season. They were the region champs and finished 5th at state. So we had last Thursday was a pretty active day. We had a welcome home for them. Just did a little breakfast, welcomed in parents, friends, family, celebrated their season. And then we hosted a cross-country meet in the afternoon and had volleyball in the evening. So it was a full day, and that's kind of where we're at right now with everything winding down. Volleyball has, I think, their last home regular season match tomorrow night. Football has their last regular season game on Friday on the road. Cheer has been doing some really great things, really competing at a very high level, attending competitions at Brandon Valley, at the Pentagon with Roosevelt, and so some really big competitions. And I think that's really helping our programs. I'm really excited about the fact that we're competing against these bigger schools. I think we're seeing that with our volleyball team right now. They started out playing a really tough schedule and maybe didn't win as many as they wanted to, but now are starting to see a little more success coming together as a team and realizing what it means to compete at a high level. And I feel like all of our programs are doing that right now, including, like I mentioned, band was at Platt and Menno and seeing some of those different marching bands and having different opportunities there. So that's kind of in a nutshell all that's been going on. I also wanted to take just a couple minutes and kind of plant some seeds here with you guys about a couple things that just have been brought to my attention. And so kind of just gathering information. I want to present this to the board and for you guys to think about and let me know or let us know on if it's something we want to pursue. So on the screen here, Mr. I just put a couple slides together. Okay, and so as we're moving forward here, thinking about how we want to brand our school, okay, our activities. And so a couple phases with that. As a new guy coming back, walking around observing, I've noticed we have a lot of different Trojan heads. Okay, and you might not realize it because maybe you've seen them a lot, but there are a bunch of them located kind of throughout the lobby, in the gym, as you start to look at signage, okay, even our own letterhead, all of them kind of just a little bit different. And so as we start to move forward activities-wise, I would like us to kind of think about what do we want our consistent logo to be. And I know that might seem like, well, I can't believe we're taking time to discuss it. I think it's something that's important because, you know, as a system, we want to all be consistent and have that same look as we move. So you can just see the different, the one on the way left, that's actually the West Central Trojan that we're using right now for some things. The second one, I think that's probably the most popular Trojan from what I can tell. If you notice, that one has an ear that pokes through. Some people like the ear, some people don't like the ear, believe it or not. These are all things that have been pointed out to me as, you know, I've been welcome back here. The blue and white one, the third one, notice that doesn't have a little ram symbol on the helmet. Okay, just another little quirk there, but it has an ear, but no design on the helmet. The fourth one has a bill on the helmet, different feathers, you know, and no symbol on the helmet. So just some varieties there. And then that fifth one, that's the one I asked for feedback coming into this meeting from our coaches. That's the one they kind of like the best out of the ones that have been floating around. They wouldn't mind even tweaking that a little bit, but I just wanted to kind of share that with the board that, you know, as you're going through the building, take a look at that and just kind of, you'll start to see. It actually will start to probably bug you a little bit when you realize all kind of the little differences. So I just kind of wanted to point that out. Yeah, Mr. McKinnon?
I suspect too that has something to do with our apparel too, would it not?
Absolutely.
So it's
Yep.
on, if you look at a piece of clothing, it's
Yep.
probably here, there, and everywhere.
Yep. Piece of clothing, calendars.
Because
you
what
know,
we've done is we've never sent the Trojan Head two places. It's just whatever Trojan Head the place has.
Mhm. Yep.
Okay.
And so thinking about if we want to get one trademarked to be our own, those are things that I would just like the board to kind of think about as, you know, we move forward here. The other thing I was asked about is kind of the lobby. I believe we have beautiful facilities. And so one of the things when I feel like when you come into our lobby, it's not maybe as welcoming as it could be, considering all the other beautiful things that we have around our campus. And so I just reached out to some people about some different things that we could do. They do have a certain kind of wrap that you can put on our brick that we have. This particular one, we would need someone to professionally install it, but then you can see the little bricks through it apparently, so it would look pretty sharp. And that would be, you know, what people would see walking into the lobby. Along with that, if you're familiar with that lobby area, there are some kind of outdated record boards, you know, that I think have probably been there since, you know, Matt and I have been in high school, where you just are putting in the little white letters to spell out each record. And so one of the things, if we wanted to move forward, or you guys thought it was a good idea to maybe pursue a little more information, that we'd look into is a digital board that could just house all of that stuff, and you could walk up to it as a touch screen and kind of swipe through and, you know, have all of our records in one space there. So Mr. McKinnon, would you go to the next slide for me? These are some other options that we could do. For me personally, I think moving forward, it'd be nice to have that one big wall and then maybe something under our concession stand, say in Trojan territory, but they just marked up some different things that we could do if we wanted to. You know, that you can put little, those ones that you see there are kind of like fatheads essentially. So like we could apply those and everything. They just make those that are pretty easy to put on. The picture in the middle, that would be kind of the type of board that we would want potentially to house our records. Even thinking a little bit further ahead, you know, it may be something that we could think about is like a Hall of Fame and get something like that started. It could be a way to include and get alumni back involved a little bit and recognize some of the tradition that we have. Mr. McKinnon, would you click on that link and see if that hopefully works? So found a company that kind of does that for us, that would do that for us. They would create some, you know, they just found a couple random pictures and put them on there. But if you click on the Explore there, Mr. McKinnon, so that would be kind of how our touch screen would work. So we'd have that touch screen monitor set up. Whoever comes in, they touch on it, and then boom, we got Hall of Fame, we got, you know, records, however we would want to set that up. There is a company that does that. they're out east, they've worked with a lot of colleges and some bigger high schools, but I talked with them back and forth, and we'll get into just the cost of this just so you guys can have an idea and see if it's something you think it's worth our time. But that's kind of what the look could be potentially for us. And obviously anything that we want, if when we head back to the slides there, Mr. McKinnon just got a couple more. I think you might have to, yeah, right there. So next slide. So the west wall, the first picture I showed you, that's a pretty heavy duty one. If we want to do the heavy duty, it's around $4,500. We could do it ourselves with a lesser type material like the fathead, and that's like $2,000. I just want to give you guys an idea of numbers of what people have quoted for me. The rest of the lobby area, those different things that you saw, those were around $2,000. Yes, total, yep, total. And then like the video hardware package, so a touch screen monitor with mounting brackets and some sort of computer to run that, probably around $2,900, $3,000 based on the size. That's for about a 55-inch screen. And then the software to display all of that, which is what Mr. McKinnon clicked on that link. That company is quoted at $2,400 a year, but after a lot of back and forth, they said they would work with us because they don't have anybody in South Dakota for $500 a year. So that's just kind of a big picture, lots of different things for you guys to think about. And that's really what I just wanted to do, is just present that to you guys. One more slide, Mr. McKinnon. For you guys to think about, is that something worth pursuing? This is preliminary work that I've just kind of reached out to random people we talked with Madison, they have something similar. Reached out to where Mr. McKinnon came from in Mount Vernon. They have went kind of up to the point, didn't follow through on it. So talked with their AD. So I've talked to a couple people about it, got some different companies, different ideas. And I'm not sure if this would be a school or a booster funded program. Really for tonight, I just wanted to kind of throw that out to you guys and see if it's something that you would want to even do to the lobby. So not looking for any answers on that or anything, but just presenting that to you guys tonight to think about.
Can I give them one?
Yep.
About that track board and the cost.
Oh yeah, sure.
That you guys, to the left of the water fountain now is the Ethan Parsons track record board. I don't know if you guys remember that, or you can see it's yellow and blue, and it's a pretty good sized record board. But that thing, when we purchased that, was done by the Booster Club. That alone was $1,200 just for that. So the price, I mean, when I saw that price of $2,900, that you do a record board like that for basketball, you're going to be above
and
that.
you can just swipe every record on this.
Exactly. So we
It's
have
kind of like
them
a
all there.
website type.
Yeah.
Mr. Vernon, every time that record changes on
And then you gotta
Ethan
pay-
Parsons, what's the nameplate? I forget what they charge.
$15 to
Right.
change the nameplate. I think Mr. Digman started making them himself the last couple.
Right.
But to have them make the ones that, because they
Yeah,
slide out, and slide
yeah.
back, it's like $15 just to change it every time.
So just some things for you guys to think about.
And that was just one sport.
And
To be honest, I think the kids might.
Would we do the updating of this for the records,
Yeah.
or do we, so we'd have access to update that, or?
yeah,
I'm
you
adjusting.
Yep,
Okay.
so they provide the software if we
Okay,
go with this
cool.
particular company, and then we upload it, or they might even upload the first time, but then it's pretty time-consuming, just kind of upload
Cool.
spreadsheets and different things.
It's up to you to manipulate it though.
Exactly, they
They're not
give
gonna do it
you,
for you. You have access to the resource
Yep.
and software, but now somebody in-house
yep,
has
Has
to
to change
keep
it.
that.
and they have the customer service, I think, pretty much 24/7 to call in and get help. And we've even talked about, after we see this company's layout, maybe it's something that kids could design on their own and we could build our own. But looking at it, and seeing what it looks like to run initially would be something we'd probably want to do just so we get it right. So yeah, that's my report. Thank you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
What do you guys think? Yeah?
I think it's something we should at least look into.
Yeah, look into it. Okay. What's the next step, Adam, or if we're interested in moving forward, or with some of the ideas?
Yeah, so I mean, the probably next step would be, depending on, kind of what we want to do, is, do you want me to reach out to Booster Club, or do you feel like that would be, the next step is probably figuring out
What they could
money-wise,
help
and
with.
yeah, if they
Yep.
could help with that or be interested in helping with that.
Yeah.
I can reach out to them and see, report back to you on that.
Yeah. be good.
Okay,
Okay,
sounds
thanks.
good.
Those are really good ideas.
Really good.
It would change the lobby a lot.
Yeah.
Walking
I think
into
it'd
it,
really
make it look
create
a
that
lot.
welcoming. We get so many
Yeah.
people coming through. I think
Yeah.
that would be a really, if you see the football field and how beautiful that is, and you bring them in the lobby and just really welcoming environment
Yeah.
for everybody that comes.
Yeah, thanks, Adam. Very good. All right, superintendent report.
Well, so I put in my notes there, the first thing that I have for you is recognition of the Parsons School District from the Associated School Boards, okay? And essentially, in your packet, I put this program called ALL. So the process there, as is described within the literature, as to the events that the Parsons School Board engages in within the course of the school year, will add up to points, and then the certain level of points will give you a distinguished level, gold, silver, or bronze. So this came in the mail the other day. I'm going to be totally honest with you, I'm not familiar with the program. So, but that's why I put the information within your packet to give you some background as to what it is and what it entails. So, but nonetheless, the letter I put in there was addressed to Jill as the school board president, and recognizing that the Parsons School District has achieved the silver level board level for their all program this year. So I don't, suggestions on where to display that, you tell me where it should go. I don't would like that to
That
go,
should go
maybe
in your
here.
office.
No.
Put it right there.
Yeah, that's what I thought. That's my first thing.
Yeah.
This is where you have
That's
most
fine.
of your
This is
board
where we have
meetings,
our-
but
yeah.
yeah, if we displayed it in here somewhere, I thought would be a nice look, right? So,
That's really good.
yeah, congratulations on that. And if you played a part in that achievement, whether, like I think the fall conference plays a part in that, or there's some other training, or online or face-to-face, but yeah, that was a nice surprise to see that, so. ADM updates, I just, for points of clarification, I have not got the official Department of Ed document that we have to sign off. It says, here is what we have for your ADM, but doing all the math and Julie working really hard and helping on that, we're looking at 504. The reason why I bring that in there, because I had made statements prior a couple times that our number was probably more than what it was. It was inflated, not intentionally, but didn't quite understand the our home process and how that worked. But when we stopped and looked at it, we counted the number of kids that from September of 20 who left your system till the May of 2021. 36 kids that left the system in that time frame. Well, now you have some ebb and flows. You have some kids always coming back in this course of the school year. But now that the end of this September, when count day came again, we lost probably another 10, I think another 10 students on top of that. And then the ebb and flow of our home. Mr. Bruning could probably really speak to that better than I can, is because he knows how to account for those kids within our system. And some kids pay tuition, or we charge school tuitions for. Some we get ADM support from the Department of Ed on, and some we get half and half. And it's pretty complex.
It is, and every dollar is based on how the kid is placed in the system. So, I mean, I am billing for probably twice as many as I did last year, so that is one of the reasons why too, because that's 5 more that I'm billing. So what that means is they are being counted on a Ethan's or a Brookings' child count. So they're getting the state aid for them, but yet we are educating them. So then we turn around and bill them for the days that they're here. So, and the daily rate that we would get from the state. So basically it's just kind of transfer money because we're the ones educating them at the time. That number is up, so 5 more there. But the other ones, it's all, we kind of get paid in the rear for them, and it's all based on the number of days that the kiddos are here. So, you're not going to know. Their beds weren't full on September 25th. The maximum they can have is 35, and I think they were right about 30, wasn't it?
Yep.
Which is close, but that's out of our control too.
So the last point to make there is we're down 20 students. And if you
Right.
look at our student-teacher ratio and what the ADM, what it equates for each school, because every school is different. Craig, help me, we're somewhere between, probably between 6 and 6,200 per kid.
Somewhere right there, yeah.
Well, let's just say it's $6,000 a kid, well, take 20 times 6. I mean, we're short $120,000 in the general fund, because those kids aren't here on count day. So, it just keeping that in mind, you know, when we move forward here. And I'm full disclosure, I don't mean anything, it doesn't, it's just, hey, let's be attentive to this concept, but I visited with the staff about it on Friday during in-service, so, I mean, let them know that what our number is right now. So, again, I don't know that anything's gonna become of it, but the fact that we're short that revenue right now, I mean, we'll just have to see how we get through the rest of the school year here, and Mr. Brennan and I sit down and take a look at a budget in the spring and how it all potentially is gonna impact, or maybe it doesn't.
And I think we were down to about 512-ish a couple of years ago. I mean, we just haven't had this, we kind of gradually gained a few, and now the drop back. We don't know what will happen.
Usually
But,
a few kids at a time, right?
yeah, but
And we kind of talked about why or what, or there was not one particular. I just want to be sure that everybody understands that it wasn't like one big thing. It was like multiple types of situations. Most of it was moving in and out. It was not like it was some big ordeal or something.
No, I counted 36 kids actually moved. So here, I saw there was Florida, there was Washington, there was Oregon, there was a Midwest state. They're leaving a greater portion of them left the state. Now we have some going to local school districts too. I mean, moving around for sure. But I was shocked when I saw these kids and the number of kids. There was like almost double digits that moved to Florida. I don't know what's happening in Florida, but people were going to Florida, I guess. So.
I just asked the question because I wanted to make sure as a board that there wasn't something that we needed to be paying attention to as a pattern, or, you know, is there something that we needed to address? But we really couldn't find a common, like, what, you know, reason or why, what we would be looking for. It was nothing that could have been prevented necessarily, so.
Yeah, it wasn't a glaring, conviction on the Parkston School District's part as to why people would leave the system. I mean, there were just too many irregularities and inconsistencies with people coming and going. There wasn't one thing you could hang your hat on to say, oh, it's this. So, I mean, I couldn't find that in the numbers. So,
Was it mostly elementary or high school?
good combination of both.
Okay.
It wasn't specific to a school level. I mean, it was pretty even across the board. Yep. But that is a great question, yeah. I mean, is it here? Because that's going to potentially have an impact on us as we move through the system, but it really wasn't that. So, I got just this is a district report card update. I just wanted to show you guys a few things up here. You know, so if you understand what Smarter Balance is our spring assessment. That's what we're held accountable for from the state's perspective. So I'm going to show you just a couple quick documents here. This particular document. Hang on here. Okay, so you'll see up here I have the elementary for 4 years straight, and you can look at the percents, proficient and advanced. That's what P and A means. So ELA is English Language Arts, math is math, and the science is science. And then the attendance rate is to the right, and then the CCR percent, that's college and career readiness percent, and then that's our ACT score average on the far right there. So there's different concepts that add up to what we would call a school performance index. This is the second year. Because of COVID, we don't have a school performance index where you add up them all, it's out of 100, and each school would score a 70 or a 60 or an 80 or whatever, because of some of the bits of data missing because of COVID. So, but nonetheless, we do have a chance to look at our percents proficient and advanced. So if you can see from 1 year to the next in the last 4, 1920, you can see NT, which means no test, right? Because we didn't test that year. And then the NR is actually not released. For whatever reason, they're not releasing the science. number right now, and I think the rationale behind that is last spring or last school year, we took a brand new science assessment. It wasn't what it was in the past. And then we were supposed to do a pilot. We asked the US DOE, the Department of Ed did, for permission for Latitude not to report that, and they said no. So we took the test, everybody took the test in the state of South Dakota. First time our teachers have ever seen it, first time the Department of Ed has ever seen it, first time our kids have ever seen it. So we have, I don't know what they're doing with that number. It'll be interesting to see what comes out of that number. So, but you can see the different levels there, elementary, junior high, and high school. Yeah, a little bit of this, a little bit of a roller coaster, that if you follow it down from year to year. Some consistent, some there, it looks like we kind of had a rough year last year, especially like the junior high and the math. See that didn't go so well for our junior high kids. So, and then the attendance rates too. I'll show you, if you look at the high school, the college career readiness, numeric 86, 90, 76, 87, those are percents of the number of students that they're accounted for who were college career readiness. That comes out of the ACT. It comes on program completion, not program completion, but kids have to identify in there what their program of study is. So you're on a track where you have 4 years of math, 4 years of English, 4 years of science, things of that nature. So it determines whether those kids are college career ready or not.
So that percentage only comes off of kids who've taken the
Who
ACT?
take the test, yep,
Yeah.
exactly. Yep. And then that your average, ACT average, that's Parkston's average, is 24, 24, 22, 22. And right now the state average is still 22. So they're hanging in there.
And the attendance percentage is attendance to school?
Yep.
Just generically? Okay.
Yep, so, but there was and it seems a little distorted, but I wanted to show you, this is a system called STARS, Student Teacher Accountability Reporting System. This is where I can get in and teachers can get in and drill down to student-specific data. We won't do that, obviously, for reasons, but there is I wanted to show you, if we just click on the elementary here, that if I wanted to look at our attendance, see there, if I clicked on that, we could drill down to specific students, but we won't. But attendance happens, it falls in the school environment. So if you look here at attendance 96 and then chronic absenteeism, this is something that the Department of Ed, I think I've even heard a few commercials about on the radio, about school attendance. Chronic absenteeism is defined, students attending school 90% or more of enrolled days during the full academic, that's that. Students attended school for more than 10 days and also missed 10% or more of the enrolled days within a school year. So we're on average 172, 175 days a year, so 10% of that. So chronic absenteeism is defined as somebody who's missed the better part of 17, 18 days of school within a school year. And the state of South Dakota really honed in on the number of kids who missed 36 weeks of school because of COVID. And that number was a little bit shocking as well too across the state. But I think a lot of it had to do with some of our demographics in our southwest part of our state, our northeast part of our state, the north central part of our state. So has an impact. So what I wanted to show you, if you look at our chronic absenteeism for the elementary, pretty good. You know, not horrifying. I mean, certainly. So when I'm going to click on the junior high, this might be a little bit different number. So that jumps a little bit with our junior high kids. So, and you won't find this this number for the high school because they don't base that part of the school performance index on absences. It's college career readiness is where we get the points, not absences or attendances. Sorry.
That's why they didn't have a score.
Yeah.
Yeah, I see.
Yep. So I just wanted to show you this system. That's where I go and look at all their students' scores and we can drill down. And the one element here that we really should look at, and hopefully we can in the future, is this one right here. If I clicked on it, there's nothing there. You want to look at student performance, and that is what's going to tell you whether you are making the grade or not. So I may be a level 2, but if I look at student performance and look at a scale score and look for percentages of growth I made, and maybe I'm still a level 2 the next year, but I might have fell into the 80th percentile in growth. And that way you know that that kid, even though he's still a level 2, is growing where you want him. And if you continue that trajectory, you'll get him into that level 3 and into that level 4. But because of COVID, we don't have reporting statistics on student performance because the 1-year gap where we didn't take it messed with that trajectory. So, yeah, I mean, so that's, and this sheet here, and I'll finish up on that. So I took all those years, and these are our levels, percent levels of, you can see 15, 16, you see math on the left, ELA on the right. Those grades are 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 11. Those numbers you can track, so like this 3rd grade in 15, 16, the next year, 16, 17, they were 4th graders, okay? And then you can just keep on working your way down on that, but we looked at this as a staff on Friday, and there wasn't anything glaring, quite honestly, which I found encouraging, that you didn't see huge disparities in 1 year to the next, that maybe if you look here in level up here, 46% as 3rd graders were level 4. And if you add them up, you can get to that number. Well, look what they did in 4th grade. So they're roughly the same. It flip-flopped a little bit. We lost a few out of the advanced level, maybe slid back to proficient. But if you still add them up, you're pretty close. And then you can, let's follow that red group. We're talking math here. Let's follow them to 5th grade. Okay, so now if you look at it, we got 59%. Okay, we slid back a little bit, right? And then let's look them at as 6th graders. Okay, now we're back up to 66% as 6th graders proficient in advanced. Now, there's lots of things that can impact that. You can hypothesize all day long until the cows come home as to why. But in classes your size, if you have an influx of 5 kids or you lost 5 kids, depending on those ability levels of those kids, it can have a dramatic effect on your percentages. So again, that's why, not to get so hung up on the P&A levels, let's look at performance. Let's follow that kid across those 3 grade levels that we just did and see how he continues to work his way through the performance aspect. You know, and if you follow those kids and then you start seeing a dip, you know, then that's a concern, right? So it's something that one would have to address. I found that this group of kids here is 8th graders in 15, 16, and if you see 9, only 39% were proficient in advanced. Let's follow that group. There they are in 18, 19 as juniors when they took it. And there you have 13, 43%, which was a bump forward for sure, which is a good thing. Because most of the times when you get to junior year in our state smarter balanced assessment, juniors are not real fond of that assessment. Yeah, and everything that you can do to try to entice them and encourage them to do well on that assessment sometimes goes in one ear and out the other. I mean, so I've had kids personally tell me they drew sailboats because they weren't interested. And they've already taken the ACT, not your kids, but kids in the past that I've
Probably our kids.
Yeah, well, I'm telling you, if I had them there, trust me, you got them here too. You know, so, because they're already taken the ACT at this point in time, they're like, I know where I'm going, I'm in college, I don't need to take your SBA test, I don't.
Right.
So, yeah, and then that's about encouraging and getting down on your hands and knees and begging and pleading and praying. Guys, please, do due diligence on this for me, and throw incentives at them to, hey, if you do really well on this, we'll do something. You know, so you come up with ideas as a staff as to what to entice them on. So, okay. All right, so that's enough of that. But I wanted to show you guys that. So that's a little concept on our Smarter Balance scores, okay? Playground, I'm waiting for that. I'm getting a full package together to bring to you. And I feel bad, Mr. Fisher and I, and Mr. Norton, even Mr. Bruni, and we've talked in our admin meetings that, I don't know how else to tell you guys this, that some of these changes that we want to make, you know, whether it's within capital improvements or approaches and ideas, you know, we're all going to kind of be this concern of, I just told you we're short kids, and then we come to you with all these ideas, and guess what they come with? A price tag, right? I mean, so, you know, encouragement, we'll give you all the resources they think, we'll vet it, we'll talk to you about it, but ultimately, you know, your guys' decisions as to what do you think is in the best interest of the Parsons School District, the kids, the staff, the students, and its patrons. But I do feel bad because I'm telling you all this stuff, and then everything that idea we bring to you, and it's like, oh, by the way, it's going to cost some money. You know, so I get it. But I think nonetheless, we're still going to bring you these concepts and these ideas for you guys to follow through and vet. And the playground is one of them. You know, we went out there last spring and looked at that, and there's some particular pieces of equipment they need to be fixed. But right now, we got 2 slides out there. If you go down there, I mean, if you got shorts on, you might lose a pound of flesh. So either we got to replace them, or we got to get them welded and get them fixed. So, but that's coming. The ESSER 3 application. Mr. Bruning had a phone call. I actually got a letter. I think it put in that you didn't get this. I just got this, so that we've been approved. And I looked in grants management today. We got approved. Our ESSER 2 application finally got approved, and the half of ESSER 3 that involves the HVAC project finally got approved. So the notion that tonight on your last agenda item, your action item with ACE, feel confident that you're going to get the money. So that kind of takes that, even though we were told that, there's always that hesitation, in my opinion, like, can you give me something that says, so when this happens and we go through this and you're like, oh, but you weren't really approved. Well, yeah, you told me, but you didn't have anything concrete. That's not scary. So we got the letter that we are approved. So that's a good thing. F, that was your calendar reminder for PT. Your delegate assembly, that's your associated school boards. I put those resolutions in there. Traditionally, I haven't spent a lot of time on those, you guys. They were in there if you wanted to read them. I suspect you read through some of those, but the very question there that I posed to you guys is November 19th is that date. It's a Friday, I'm sure. And right now, I think that's always going to be a little bit fluid because of maybe potentially what COVID does. Could be an online concept as well. So I don't recall as to who that delegate representative was when we organized in July. If that's jumping off the page at anybody, or you don't want to raise your hand
I
because
think it was me. I don't remember
I think I was a standby.
for sure.
I think it was
Yeah, I
Jill.
think it was.
okay.
Yeah.
So those are things when you get to that delegate assembly, if you look in all that packet of resolutions, they would ask collectively, okay, yay or nay? Yay, nay, for and against. I don't think it's about tweaking it or changing the verbiage. They are what they are. They've been adopted. It's how many we have supporting that resolution moving forward. So,
You're correct, Jill, you're the delegate, you're the alternate.
okay, good. I'm glad you remembered that because I didn't. So you'll have to make that decision, and we'll have another board meeting before. But I know plans change, things happen, and again, it wouldn't be the first time. I'm sure that Parkston wasn't represented there.
I think Jim always
Jim
attended
went.
it.
Mhm.
Yeah, he
Jim
went
went.
to it. Yeah, he always came back with feedback, and
Okay.
at least the 2 years that I,
Been
prior
on the
2
board.
years, yeah.
Okay. And then the policy review, I talked to Jessica Filler, who is the Associate School Board School Attorney, and she is sending me information back, so to fully what the exact quote is going to be in order to take your policy manual, convert it, and get it invested or changed with the Associated School Board's manual. So her and I visited a little bit, but she hasn't officially given me the quote back. And you already approved it. You guys said, yeah, absolutely, but I just wanted to give you an update. And then the Connex box question, Mr. Bruning did some research on that, and I don't know what to tell you on that deal. I just had the informational meeting in the school library, or the high school library, and Mr. Kinnenberg and I walked in there, and there's, I don't know, how many, 30? 30 desks in there? We got our new desks,
Finally,
finally.
the week of homecoming. Best week to get them in.
So we had the kids transfer in and out. Well, we talked about spacing, right? So I had 30+ desks sitting in the high school library stacked in a corner because where do we go? I don't know where to put them. But the Connex box is more than I think what we
The 40-footer was.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. They catch you with the price and then tell you after the fact it's for the 20.
Or
And
the
then-
8.
Then it's, oh, by the way, here's the price for the 40-footer. So it's more than what we had originally talked to you guys about, and you kind of gave us a blessing and an approval to say, yeah, go ahead. Well, when we saw the price on that, it was like, nah, this is coming back to you guys, whether we should do this or not.
Because yeah, it was 7,300 I think delivered the other day, and then whether or not you can get one at the time. And you're going to get whatever you get, and you don't throw a fit type of attitude is what I got from them as far as, because I asked, well, what colors do they come in? And it goes, whatever one's on top.
Wow, that's
It wasn't so that we could pick it. Oh, I want a nice tan one that doesn't have any graffiti on the side.
Yeah.
Type of attitude. It's just kind of, it was like, which one was on top? I'm like, oh, okay.
It's not something we want to do, and I'm sure they can easily paint it.
Yeah, yep, and that's what he
Yeah.
said, is people paint them themselves. That's what he said. But
We're limited on vendors, too, as to who we really can reach out to.
I
You
reached
see all
out to
this-
2 different ones, and they were within a couple $100 of each of them. One guy over in Sioux Falls, and one was in Chamberlain. So where he brings them from, the guy in Chamberlain, I don't know, but they were within a couple $100 of each other. So it wasn't just one price.
If we don't go with these, the Connex box, what would our other alternate be? I mean,
A storage shed of some sort, some
Yeah.
point. I mean, that kind of builds into the and this would be more. It's not like something you couldn't get rid of later on.
No, exactly.
Either.
The liquidity of the Connex box, that's what I like about that.
Yeah.
You know, I mean,
Yeah, I don't know if they'll. He did say they've went up quite a bit in price the last 6 months or so, but
Because I would say most of them are stored on the west and the east coast.
Right.
If you notice the docks out there,
yeah.
just packed.
yes.
And we got all kinds of ships floating around that sea that have Connex boxes on them they can't get off.
That's right.
Only because the interstate transportation, there's no truck drivers to move it from one end of the state, or the United States to the other. So it's all sitting out there floating. So they're becoming a little bit harder to press to come by, I think.
I mean, I'm getting a quote to fix that garage door on the blue shed that's out there. I mean, now, those desks that are in there can go in that blue shed. But we're more looking for something. I mean, we've got that track equipment and stuff that's stored in the shop that takes up space that, we can't put on the blue shed because mice will eat it. I mean, and then we did that one time on accident, and the $1,200 pad got eaten in the middle of a hole like that. So, because it didn't get brought in, type of deal. I mean,
I know the prices of steel are outrageous. Like I said, $300 to me doesn't sound.
and that's a 40. It was an 8.6 by 40,
I mean, I don't see.
which is the standard. There is a taller one, a 9.6, I think it was. He said, but this was the standard 8.6. So
what was the price we thought originally it was gonna
3 to 4, I think we told
Yeah,
you
we told you
originally.
3,500,
Yeah.
and you're like, okay, yeah, that's fine. But twice, it doubled on us.
And that's delivered price. That's what it costs to deliver it
to
to.
get it here.
Because he asked where we were at in location and mileage, and he took that into consideration on those 2 that I did talk to. So there won't be an additional delivery fee on top of it or anything like that. Who knows, that may be the reason why the cost is a lot higher now too.
Right.
The only other option that I can think of is renting a storage shed, but that's obviously not on site, and transporting would probably be more hassle than it was worth, I would guess.
I was thinking that too, but I don't know even, like, is that mouse proof too? Could we potentially have the same issue? I don't know.
Buying any of those are a risk, obviously, outside. I mean, you're putting it in a facility, I mean, there's always the potential.
But a Connex box is supposed to be
They claim rain tight,
Rodent.
yep, rain tight,
Yep.
rodent tight. I mean,
Yeah,
you
they
can't
have
stand there with
3
the door open, obviously,
Right.
but I mean,
Right.
it's,
Yeah.
Mhm.
that actually says that in there.
Yeah, for like so many a year or whatever, because these are all used ones. They're not brand new, they're used, so. But they go through them before you.
So how serious were we on the storage shed?
I don't know, it's not so much storage, I mean a shed to store the vehicle, you know, I don't know. But that's not for another good, at least a
You know,
year.
I think
if
if you
not
recall
more.
back, I mean, any building project of that nature, a minimum of 18 months. I mean, to have the conversations, to figure out a footprint. Again, you're looking at putting out an RFP for an architect to help design those types of facilities, and or an engineer, or a design build element company. I mean, you still have to go through that process, and then create the footprint, develop all the things that are within it. What do you want in it? Kind of, and they take you through that process. But again, at minimum 18 months.
And this would come from capital outlay.
Mhm.
The purchase,
Yep.
yeah, because it's a physical structure.
Yeah.
For sure. So
And you could sell it later.
you can, yeah, absolutely. And I don't suspect you. Talk about, are you upside down on it? I don't suspect that you would be upside down on it. I think you would get your money back out of it. Yeah. But I mean, we're not going to abuse it, right? I mean, we're not banging it around and
It's not on a
It's
semi truck driving
it's
back
not
and forth
transporting,
between places and stuff like that. It's
being
gonna-
lifted off, lifted on. It would stay in pretty good shape, I think.
And if it works good, I mean, let's find something to put in it. I mean,
Yeah.
it just as we grow and whatnot.
So we just know that blue shed out there is not mouse proof, and I did have him give me a price to maybe look at foaming and spray foaming around the bottoms, because all the problem is the tin and the nails are coming out of the bottom board, and there's a gap like that big around the bottom. So stuff we put in there is metal stuff. I mean, these desks could go in there that are in the library. We just haven't got them out there
Nothing's
yet.
gonna hurt them.
Yeah, and we'll probably get rid of those. To be honest with you, we can put them
Well,
up for sale.
eventually you'd surplus them, sorry, man.
Yeah.
So the
Okay.
need is for some some storage for some of the seasonal use items, plus storage for surplus items. that
Until we
we're waiting to
can
sell.
get rid of them, yeah. Rather than storing them in a room here, which we don't have very many available.
Well, considering that you can sell it, I guess, and we need
Yeah, I mean,
it.
I think it's inflated because of the situation that's going on, but
Mhm.
I guess if we have to take a hit on it, after a while, if we get a shed built,
Mhm.
it isn't the worst thing in the world.
Right.
So, if you absolutely, what I'm hearing from you guys is that we're running out of room for stuff. And where we go with it, you need some place that's not gonna get chewed up and eaten up.
Would be nice.
Yeah.
Do you need a motion? What do you need?
I don't know, because is it information? I don't know, it's not an action item, Craig. I don't know what we can do with that or not.
Well,
Because
there
you
was-
did approve it
Correct, there was a
last
motion.
month.
Mhm.
You made the motion
I
to
made
the
approve.
motion.
We just didn't, the price wasn't the same, so that's why we brought it back to you.
Sure, do we need to adjust
Do you
it
want
because the price is
Did
different?
we put the price in it last time? Let me look and see, I don't remember, I'm sorry, I didn't look that up.
Yeah, I don't know if we actually put a
If
number.
we put
in
a
the
price, we
notes.
have to do a new one, right?
We did not, it just says to approve the purchase of a Conex box for storage purposes,
Okay.
so.
I agree, I saw
Alright.
that now.
Okay,
We didn't want to do it without,
Yeah.
especially since it was,
more
Double.
money,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay, sounds good. And you're good, you're done?
Yep.
Okay, all right, so we'll move to the next, this item on the list is discussion items. Discussion item A is discuss second reading of the medical cannabis policy for students. The board will conduct a second reading on the proposed policy that addresses student use of medical cannabis.
Yeah, I mean, I put the policies back in your packets, so, I mean, they are, I made the changes that were suggested on the other policies as well, so I think you're looking at your second reading on all of those. I mean, I don't know that we have to sit here and read through them word by word.
You didn't change
Unless-
anything from the last time, so. And those were policies that came from the Associated School Board?
So your medical
There's
cannabis,
5 different ones, yeah.
Yeah.
medical cannabis policy was originated by the Associated School
Mhm.
Boards, you know, because I wasn't smart enough to create one, so. And then your other policies that are impacted by that medical cannabis policy are the other ones that they were to.
Mhm.
You're right, they came out of Associated School Boards. Some of them we had, and you guys had that conversation as to adopt the Associated
The new
School Boards
ones.
one versus what
Yeah.
was already in your manual, so.
Okay,
There
so
were some
then,
nuances there.
discussion item B says conduct second reading of the following district policy. Do we need to have
No, there's no motion, it's just.
Because it's a
the
second
discussion
reading.
was,
Okay.
you know, second readings on the medical cannabis, use of alcohol, drugs, controlled substance policy, administration of medication to students policy. And then the last 2 were alternative instruction, students policy, and then alternative instruction enrolling from an unaccredited school policy. Those were the 5, right? Yep. Okay.
Okay.
So if
The
the,
next
yeah.
item, we're good?
So if there's anything you
Any
guys see for
feedback?
changes for next time, before the final reading will be next month and approval.
So you'll actually adopt it, then,
Mhm.
right? That's how you guys, you'll need somebody will make a motion.
Next time we'll have a motion.
Okay. Okay, next item is action items. A is discuss safe return back to school plan.
I believe that was in your packet, correct?
And ARC plan, the board will revisit the basic components of the safe return to school plan. Well, I think you handed it to us tonight, right? Wasn't that what you handed us when we got here?
I read it there.
Oh, maybe we have it in there.
It should have been in your packet, the pink stuff.
Yep, yep, okay.
Yep. So we had an informational meeting tonight, and before this, your school board meeting, and I think I had about 10 people show up. So yes, it's the parts that got colored and colored pages on it. So if you look at that, just to spend a little bit of time as to starting with the pink pages. The first page has got pink. So the vaccination, so the safe return plan got returned back to us from the Department of Ed after they looked at it. And they wanted us to have some sort of notation about encouragement of vaccinations in our safe return plan. So that's what you see on that first page, okay? Then addressing social, emotional, and mental health needs of students and staff. That's also the portion there right below that. And that's just information that, an approach aspect, which that's what we were doing, it just wasn't in our plan. So one thing about the vaccinations is to continue, I think, it says here on a monthly basis, and I would certainly bring it back to you guys, is working collaboratively with Avera about the notion if there was a necessity or an inquiry about hosting a vaccination clinic here at school, we could coordinate that with Avera if need be. But right now, I don't know that nobody's ever reached out to me about doing that or the necessity for it at this stage of the game. But it's something I think we circle back on, or at least I circle back on in every month and consider whether we should reach out to Avera and say, hey, we're willing to take this or have this, host this opportunity, would you help us do that? So that's kind of the notion behind that. I don't know if we have any questions about the vaccination or the social, emotional, or learning aspect of it. If you look to the next page, extracurricular, that's in pink, only because that was clarification on vaccinated, unvaccinated, if you remember that conversation. So it's no longer in there, it's just they will be able to compete. So that's that clarification from September. If you turn another page, you'll see red at the bottom of student close contact. And this is, I think, to clarification. We made this statement a month ago and made it very clear again tonight to the people that attended that elementary, due to the nature of that all those kids will be considered a close contact if there's a positive in their classroom. So if you look at the following page, then it describes all the mitigation strategies. There's no changes to those, other than number 5 was an addition that I presented last month. And the question was, and I didn't have all the details worked out per se, how would that look, or what it would look like, and how should we do that. So that's kind of that number 5 in the 3 bullet points as to how that would go. I visited with the nursing corps on that, and they were very comfortable with that. Again, this was some of the information. I mean, I went through this very with specificity tonight with the people that were there and saying this is how this is going to work, if it's an option that they would like to pursue. So, but that's something in addition to our plan that wasn't in there from day one. Okay?
Mr. M, how are you
Yep.
sitting on, are you good with testing supplies? I know we've had a little trouble, but you're good. Perfect.
Yeah. As of right now, I mean, we could go gangbusters on this for
There you
a
go.
while. So, and I think for whatever reason, Lindsay, I suspect visiting with Joe Moran from Department of Ed, and I don't know what the supply is, but he led me to believe that because of the situations that schools are in
Mhm.
versus healthcare, that you wouldn't believe it. But I think he has access maybe to this material even before
We'll just start sending people out here.
healthcare. No. Please don't do that.
That's a good way to go about it.
I played doctor more than
I know you have, you're a
wanted-
professional now.
More than I wanted to play in your last year, so I don't want to do it again. so.
All right, sounds good.
So if you have questions on those particular strategies, now would be the time to ask. I'm sure you've read through them, and if that description is good enough, or not good enough, but clear enough, I guess is a more appropriate term, that I, part of the suggestion that I'm making. So, and then if you find the next page says the same thing, it's just staff and student. But if you can find this handwritten little note on top. So I explained this tonight in the informational meeting, and we did capture that, right, Mr. Kinneberg, and we're gonna push that out. So, they always asked about a number. So number 3 is a number. And again, I think if you read the very top point, data points to, and what did I capitalize? Consider, right? These are just data points, these are things for you guys if it gets to that point, along with our assistants as school administrators. Hey, should we consider this notion of a mandatory, a larger scale mask mandate if we feel that need is there? So if you read 1, 2, 3, 4, those are kind of the main points of what triggers, I guess, data points that we would take a look at as to whether we should or we shouldn't. But the number comes in 3. How did I arrive at 3% of an infection rate of whether it's a class, grade, a section, a team? In my, I'm on the executive board for South Dakota School Superintendents Association, and we spent some time 2 weeks ago out on this conversation, and there was a couple people that were citing superintendents say, well, where they're at in COVID and how it's impacting them. They threw around numbers. So can I ask a question? Where did you get your number? And they based it on the notion of last year at any point in time where they felt it was their peak, that they were at the highest rate of positivity. I heard numbers from 1.5 to 2 to 2.5, and this came in probably half a dozen school districts. So Mr. Brennan and I sat down, at least looked at the staff part of it, and we found at any one point in time the number of staff, and then I went through and tried the best I could, because we don't have the workbooks anymore from a year ago, but looking at Infinite Campus, looking at attendance, I mean, you can kind of tell where a kid's gone for 10 days, what his issue is. And then asking questions, because you were taking close contacts out, right? Okay, which one of these were positive? So I'd say that percentage is pretty close. It's probably even a little bit higher than all of the people that I talked to. So because they were 1.5 to 2 to 2.5, the suggestion of 3, I think it aligns with about where you were at any one point in time last year. It may have been a little higher last year at some point in time. I didn't do that heavy of research on it, but it's just a trigger point. It's a data point. If we get to that point, that's what we heard from the community. What's your number? Well, my suggestion to you guys, that's how I arrived in it. Whether you like the number, you want the number, you don't like the number, that's your guys. I told you I'd come up with one and work hard to find it, and that's what I found for you. So that's the questions on that sheet. And then that color sheet, that's the reason why I put that, because I can't read the color sheet, but it says the same thing in the red.
I saw that.
Okay, so,
I had to take my magnifying glass.
yeah, so and that's more of a template issue that Tony and I have worked on, to make it, and I'll be honest with you, the reason why we had to change the template, because Department of Ed said we need to post this plan in a foreign language on our website as well. That would not allow us, the template would not allow us to do that, so we had to kind of recreate this template so we could scan it, and then it would come up in a different language, so. Okay, so those are the suggestions I'm proposing to you guys, for consideration. That's what I told them tonight that showed up. I said, listen, the school board has got this information, whether they discuss it or they approve it, they want to change it, they want to add to it. I said, that's their prerogative, so, but there it is for you guys for consideration.
Feedback?
I think it's really thorough.
Yeah,
I
it is.
I cringe at putting numbers on certain things, but I think, when we get to that, that's when we start considering different things. I mean, it doesn't mean, hey, we're gonna pull the trigger on this, we're gonna pull the trigger on that, or don't do this or don't do that, but I think, we just monitor things and go from there. Hopefully you don't have to worry about it.
Yeah.
Was there any additional feedback from the meeting? Were they receptive to that number and?
I asked for questions and clarifications. I clarified a few things, and that was more on the Quidel
Mhm.
card
Mhm.
and what it was actually testing for.
Mhm.
And as soon as I think clarified those questions for those people, I didn't get any feedback per se as to what's in the red.
Okay.
The number. Nobody said, well, your number stinks, or we think your number is good or bad or ugly. They didn't say anything. They just said thank you. So,
Good.
Anybody have anything else? All right, we need a motion to approve.
So,
We haven't, have we approved those each time?
Oh, well, don't we have to approve the changes?
Oh, we did, my bad, sorry.
I'll second.
is that right, Craig? Am I not? It's an action. I mean,
Yes,
okay.
yes, I missed that, I'm sorry. So who moved, I'm sorry, Jed and second by Nebo again? All right, done.
Weber.
Oh, Weber, this time, sorry. Any other, so moved by Schoenfelder and second by Weber to approve the updated safe return back to school plan. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hopefully, November's not on the agenda.
There's a lot of options, so
I
there
agree.
is.
it's like it would be like try to get every circumstance and
Yeah.
appease everyone's questions and needs. I feel like it's all there, so I think we're prepared.
Yeah.
It's good.
How are we sitting now, any?
Zeros. Yep, so on our website, we'll show that Peter
I
real
thought
quick.
in the
I had it
data
up
data
there.
day it said one student and one staff. Did I read that wrong?
No, it's So,
Oh.
so a week ago, so weekly COVID,
I read the
so
wrong.
here's your
Let's talk
website, so
about
there's
Ledger.
your
I know,
English,
so.
your plan in English. There's the art plan, and I'm still working on bits and pieces of that to resubmit it, and then here's your safe return to school plan. So, but we put this link on here too, and very simplistic, and that's 4th through the 8th, and right near over to zeros.
That's great.
And that updates once a week.
So every Monday, I visit with Tony and where we're at, and he puts it.
I also have it in the daily data, so I'll just keep the weeks in there and just keep filling in behind it so you can see
I
as
just
it.
say, yep.
Okay.
Keep
It
scrolling on your
is,
phone.
yeah.
Perfect.
Just like go by the week, okay.
Okay, thank
Very
you.
good.
Very good.
Let's knock on wood or not be late, because we don't want to do the jinx, right?
Mhm. Okay, the next thing on the action item is discuss contract with Associated Consulting Engineering, Inc.
So, we talked about ACE before. They've been out here, Damon's been here to present to you guys in the spring of the year. But I think the conversation there, what you guys should be, what we're asking you to consider moving forward, and he would like some answers on, because when Craig and I met with Damon, these are just some things that I brought up, Mr. Boonian and I brought up to him and asked some questions on. So within the notes, there's the concepts such as heat pumps versus traditional AC units in every classroom. The univentilator, that's the actual, if you walk into a classroom, you hear the thing blowing and you see it embedded in the wall. Those are being replaced, but it's the unit outside. You know, if you walk around, you see the AC unit. So heat pump versus AC, that's one thing. Ductwork in the armory, Mr. Bruning and I were, my past experience on that is that, one, if it's not insulated inside or insulated outside, because of the temperature variance on that, oftentimes you may get condensation. So we asked Damon, he said, well, I don't think it's lined inside and it's certainly not lined outside. But he said one way to control that strategy is from the humidity aspect. You have all these units working collaboratively and controlling and keeping the humidity out. I mean, one of the big obstacles right now in this fall of the year, come even during the summer, the big door in the gym, in that corner, it's got to stay shut if we're not going to line this thing. Because he said you will, he was honest with us, he said if you don't do that, he said yeah, you could get moisture, it'll be inside or out, and he said it's going to end up on your floor at some point. So if we want to replace the ductwork within the bids and the specs, you can do that. It could be lined inside, could be lined outside, or the duct socked. We talked about the duct sock too that you maybe see in some of the newer facilities.
Bonham had duct socks. And those red
looks like
tubes.
the big slinky tube.
They look like they have a little bit of movement to them, or yeah.
Dakota Christian has duct socks, and they're new.
They have those in like pool areas, I think, don't they? Or are they like in swimming pools?
The AC unit that we put in Mount Vernon, it was in sock, and you can get them customized.
Yeah.
You can put.
If we don't change them, and we're gonna have to paint ours. There's another additional that will not be included in this, because when a kickball or something hits it now, you'll see little blue paint on the floor. You can look up a couple of them. There's a couple spots that the paint is missing quite badly in areas on those ones that we do have.
So that's something that he asked for consideration. The installation of bipolar ionization units in each ventilator. I asked that question and he said, well, I'll let you say that. He said, in the midst of this is our new norm, viruses aren't going anywhere. And what's the next virus? If the implementation of bipolar ionization systems to help mitigate viruses within your classrooms, he said, for the price that they are, which are minimal, he said, my recommendation would be, it's a mitigation strategy that you could certainly get out in front of and say, hey, we've taken that measure as well and implemented bipolar ionization within our systems.
My question on that would be the filter costs yearly. They're substantially higher. Not saying, I mean, we have it in our house and it's amazing,
It does,
but
yeah.
it's substantially higher, just so we're.
For the filters.
For the
For the
filters.
filters, right. So,
Well, okay, go ahead.
yeah, so bipolar ionization system, I'm not sure exactly what you have in there, Matt.
I assume that's what we have.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure.
but so within the univentilators, that's that cabinet-looking device. That's where our filters would go. Okay, and that's where you're getting into the point of called a MERV 13, MERV 14, MERV 15, and that is I don't know if it's quite medical grade, but it's pushing that envelope. The ionization system is a device that sends out particles, and it's one thing you want to make sure is that the ionization system does not create ozone, which the ones that I'm familiar with that I installed prior to coming, or when in Mount Vernon prior to coming here, I had all the data and the research that it did not. There's some that are out there selling it that it still does create ozone. This particular brand, a company called Global Plasma Solutions out of South Carolina. If you wanted to research them, you could. But their system does not. But they're He referenced that increased cost in your filtering system, in your unit ventilator. This system, an ionization, certainly, because of what it's producing, the tendency and the frequency in which you probably have to replace your filter because it's funneling through there, you're right. I think there is an increased cost in that notion.
Does that include UV then as well, or no?
No, most of the ionization systems, the ones that I've researched, the ones I've heard about, do not. And that's almost like another standalone component, the UV aspect of things. So, but just another notion for you guys when designing the system, for you guys to consider. So,
And he said we could do all these as like add-ons.
yep, you
Type
can.
of, when you bid it and things like that.
Yeah, I mean, you can write them all with the specs, and then you can, I don't know, cherry pick and choose, depending on what you get back for quotes on that stuff. Like, oh, geez.
Remember with the track project, you had with the slats in the fence, without, all that kind of different stuff. What I'm
So we'll
envisioning.
get a specific quote that will have every single thing in there, so we can decide what we want and what we don't.
I think so.
Yeah, I think so.
Yep. Yep. He just wants to know if that's something you want to build into the spec.
Oh, yeah, I think so. It'd be nice to know,
Just
like,
to
what
nice to
additional
see.
things and maybe like a generic explanation. I mean, just like, what does that mean? Or what is the goal of that? What do you achieve with that? So that I think you're explaining it well, but I don't do that every day for work. So, I mean, you guys probably maybe know more about that than I do, but it's
Maybe-
nice to just know.
Maybe a breakdown of maybe the potential cost of the filters too. per
Yeah,
year. I
like
mean,
what's
because
the additional?
obviously, that's gotta be paid.
Yeah.
Because
So,
Craig helped me. What did he tell us? Ours are
Merv threes, I
Threes?
remember, don't you? Does that sound right? 3 or
3,
5?
4 or 5.
It wasn't above 5, I don't believe.
No.
And then he went to Merv 13s,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
Is what I remember.
Yeah, he jumped from 5 to 13
Yeah.
in a heartbeat.
No.
But the added increased cost. I mean, it's easy enough to do is what the price 5 versus 13, and then
But
the
do you-
number of units.
And how often do you need to
do the
change
math,
it?
and and then the frequency.
The air quality's better, obviously, with the change. And will
Sure.
it change anything for heating, cooling?
Yeah, I'm sure, yeah, it'll
Like
cost.
it will-
Your electrical costs will go up, I'm sure, during the
Mhm.
summer.
Will anything decrease with putting the system in? Like that it's in an offset somewhere else? What we're paying more?
Like the whole HVAC,
Repairs.
the whole HVAC system, and
Yeah, that's a good point.
Repairs.
I'm just trying to find like the balance of like having the newer stuff and it costs more. What is it helping us that we're paying for now to
Well, I
keep
think
up what
that
we
would
have?
be I guess the one benefit of the heat pump versus the air conditioner unit, correct?
Mm-hmm.
That would
yes.
be cheaper, I assume.
You wouldn't have to run the boilers as often, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
As soon.
it would, well, it would get
in the
you,
fall.
I think, get you into the winter
November,
time of the
December
year.
time.
So,
Is that right?
We are right on the cusp of where the heat pump pays off. Like, we were in Nebraska, I looked into it when we built our house.
Sure.
I mean, I about like geothermal, but then I looked into different heat pumps. My brother has one. I mean, and it works well for him, but when all the maps that I looked at, just the Scotia to the north. But I mean, once again,
sure,
it depends on the year.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
It's.
Yeah, you're
Does
right.
it make a
You know,
difference how
I
big
don't
your building is? I mean, like, cause it's such a big building, does it make a big difference
That-
that there's
that I
more
won't
bodies
know.
in it, more?
It-
But then again, that would be
It could.
considering using that all year round, basically. I mean,
Yeah,
we would just
no.
use this just kind of in the bridge seasons,
Certain
right?
That is
times of
true.
the year,
I don't
yeah.
know if it really pays since we're not using it all year round. I don't know.
Depends on how much more it is,
He
I
did
suppose.
shoot me back. He said for a heat pump versus regular AC unit, he said you're looking at an additional $400 to $500 a unit.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
he did tell
Yep.
us that.
I remember that, yep.
But you're right. Is your price point, Mr. Schoenfelder, cost differential? Is that going to be enough to get you ahead the investment of it? Yeah. I mean, it's a good question. Not having had one in the system, I don't know where what data you rely on to say, okay, yeah, that's worth the cost or not. But he could certainly come and explain that stuff to you guys and all of these concepts. He said, just talk to them about it, and if they got questions, they want me to come out and address any of those. He said he's willing to come visit with you guys.
Yeah, I think that'd be really good just to learn about it a little bit. Sounds like you guys have some questions too about it.
Okay, yeah, we can do that.
Okay?
The other couple concepts in there, if you look, if we're gonna go the lighting project, you know, that's a standalone within your contract. It tells you how much he's gonna charge you to orchestrate the lighting retrofit as well, if that's something you wanna do. But then, you know, if you're gonna open up this place and do that, right, take the ceiling grid down and change things out, you wanna try to fix the ceiling, you know, get a quote for spray foam. I don't think that's above and beyond the project scope of things. That would be something that you would do, I think, on a board level. Say, hey, as long as we got it open, let's get some quotes on spray foam in that,
The high school hallway.
East wing, right? Yeah.
The high school hallway, right?
High
You're
school
talking about
hallways.
in the NPR hallway?
Yeah.
Where
we've had
leaks
troubles.
are.
Yeah.
I think that would be a great idea.
Well, I mean, as long as you got it
Quotes
open,
are
otherwise.
cheap. I mean, at least then we know where we're at, we can look at the numbers and, can see where we're at
I think the last thing we want to do is install new lighting and have it.
Yeah.
without a doubt.
Correct.
And you never, me not being here, I mean, you guys know better than I do that.
It's the ceiling tiles that get wrecked, it's not the lights. I mean,
No.
that
But
we've
we're gonna
had.
have it all opened up and.
Yeah. Nope.
Might as well try to fix it while it's easy to do it.
Because I don't think the way I understood, he's not taking the track down.
No.
Right? Remember, it was just the tiles and maybe putting crossbars and, because
I
they're
think
gonna
it
be
was 2x4 grid
they're gonna
versus
be-
a 2x2 grid.
He's gonna make it a 2x2 grid, but
Yeah.
utilizing as much of the track that we have.
That was there, yeah.
Yeah.
Because if that was happening, we're getting condensation up there.
I don't know.
Because, I mean,
Depends
I know,
on the spot.
I know with that spray foam, if you go like closed cell spray foam, that stuff is awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, as far as you're not gonna have condensation coming down
Yep.
or this or that, you know.
Who knows? We've had
Well-
snow drifts up there.
I've been up there multiple times, so
What's your thought, John?
we have leaks, and we have worked at it.
It's more than just condensation.
Yeah, since I've been on the board, we have
Tried everything.
Battle.
pretty much,
Is spray foam, do you think, gonna do anything then, John?
we did that one time too.
You did already one time.
Up above, right?
Like outside? I
No.
mean, or what?
No, it was inside.
Oh.
There's a
The
landing area that
valleys.
you can walk in.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
You get up in the high school. I've only been up there once or twice.
Do you know if it was closed cell? Do you know that? If it was closed cell? Closed
Spray-
cell?
Spray foam, close up.
I don't know the specific
That was prior to my
terms,
term.
but it was, we did the home stuff.
How long ago was that, John?
I mean, it seemed like that's been a topic every year on the board, someplace along the line, so. I couldn't say.
So my experience with closed cell is, so you all know, familiar with the old gym downtown Main Street in Mount Vernon? If you look at the top of that thing, now it's all white. So we had leaks beyond leaks up there, and we put that closed cell spray foam on the outside on top of it. It's never leaked since. So that's just been my experience. I'm not discrediting anything you're saying on that either.
We've had multiple companies look at,
Sure.
come in here and look over the years. It's gotten better. We didn't have too much problem this summer.
Good point. Good point. So, I guess to summarize this whole notion, those are things there that if you want us to go back to Damon and say, hey, take a look at the bidding and the spec drawing process with all these notions in place, and then the ability for you guys to maybe line item based on what the bids eventually come in at as to what you want to do, and we'll do that part or we won't do that part. I think that would be.
So he's still doing our basic bid, and then what you're saying is he has add-ons that we can adjust.
Yeah, I'll see which way he does that, John, if it's like you just explained, or it's all embedded in the bid, and then you can pull them out once you get them. I don't know which way he's
Yeah.
going with that.
But I think it boils down to what we want to spend
Yeah.
via capital outlay.
In which notion of it? All of it?
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's, because I think I'd have to look back on my notes. Did we approve like a 1.9 or something like that? Do you guys remember?
No, it was only a 1.4.
1.4, okay.
Right? Or 1.2 or 1.4.
No, I think.
1.4 might have
we-
included the lighting.
I think you're right.
I think it was 1.2
What you
something.
had allocated through ESSERS 3 was the total of ESSERS 2 and ESSERS 3, I think, got you to 1.4 million, if I remember. Because your number in ESSERS 2 was 600 and some thousand, and then you got, I don't remember exactly, $1 million something, and that's your $3.
Because one of the proposals was over 2 million.
Yeah, that was the 2.8. That was the chiller unit and all of that. General construction, AHU's chiller, new building automation, boilers, and electrical was 2.8. The other one total, I guess I'd have to add all these up.
Yeah, it
It
was
was
going
considered,
cat.
yeah, considerably low,
To go through and add those up to get to the other one. but-
So I guess.
So does that vary, if he does that vary on what he's gonna charge us?
I don't think so. I got the notion from him, once we signed that quote,
This is what he was.
that's what they will honor as far as whatever we want them to design.
Okay.
Yep. Correct me if I'm wrong, Craig, you were in there.
That's the way I gathered it too. And what is this?
Is this different than didn't we approve this already once, or?
The 74,760 is the same as before, because I'm looking at one that I had backdated May 11th of 2021. For some reason, the LED lighting one went up $2,000. It was 13,920, now it's 15,920.
And I don't remember when he came and he visited with us that morning, he may have referenced that LED, that, I don't know what the rationale was, Matt, why, he gave an indication at that time that he would go back and look at that.
So when we held off signing this because we weren't sure on that.
On
That's
your
not the grant
approval.
approval, yep.
You've never given him a signed
Right, okay.
quote like we have in front of us and say, okay. And once you do that, he said, once I get that, away he goes.
Because he was concerned about price increases.
Sure. Yep.
I have HVAC at 1,246, so on this spreadsheet. 1,000,002.
But that's a good notion, me coming on the back side of this, Mr. Poe, what you referenced about, and what you said on the 2 million part, Craig.
2.8.
Okay, so I'm assuming, I mean, the two places that I've heard since I've been here, we want Jim in the armory, and we want, not Jim, we want air in the armory, we want air in the MPR.
This included that.
That included that.
Yeah.
The 1.2 included that.
It
The
did.
bigger
Yes, it
number
did.
was basically brand new everything.
It was that chiller system, the whole, what they do in the new schools now, where you have that
Oh,
whole
okay.
unit outside.
Yes.
We'd have to put in, I think he said 2 or 3 chillers, and we were going around trying to figure out where we would put them down in the high school
Sure, okay.
type of deal, because it's
I
a
understand.
fenced-in area, like Mitchell has one out behind.
So this was actually forced water supply and returns and doing,
Yes.
I understand, okay.
That was 2.8.
Okay, understand.
This 1.2 did include AC in the gyms and the lunchroom.
Yeah, okay. Whether they're standalone rooftop units or rooftop put on the ground or whatever, it was gonna be able to do that with
Yeah.
ductwork, yeah.
Did he mention any on time frame on this, or they don't know yet, or?
Well, obviously with a caveat, but,
Yeah.
getting the work done and putting it out for bids. I asked him that, typically, he said turn of the new year, January,
said
February,
January,
March.
yep.
February for sure. Only because you don't want to do it any later than that, so advertise in January, meet your bid timelines on that, open it up in February, so if you want to award that, you always have the right of refusal, right? So, he's a little concerned. It's one thing that may come back to bite us here a little bit is the availability of product. So he felt pretty confident with the product, the unit ventilators and the AC units, pretty sure. But he said, you just never know where, based on what's happening in our world right now, what that's gonna be available for.
But for these, for the HVAC projects, he said
He felt
it's
pretty
been
good.
pretty
Yeah,
stable
he said he felt pretty good about it.
compared to some things.
So letting out in January, February, and then the work get done during the summer.
Yeah.
Well, and whatever they could do, I mean, staging, so you'd have staging here prior to the end of the school year, warehousing that, because there's some federal laws in place that this stuff, when it starts arriving, it has to be kept in environments where it's, how did he explain it, when he told us that it has to be, You just can't stick it nilly-willy, you can't put it anywhere you want to. I mean, it has to meet certain specifications, even to store it on site, you know, so, but they would start getting that product, so when you come to the last day, they're all sitting out here like chomping at the bit, and, okay, kids walked out, and here they come, type of approach, so.
He thought this was a decent enough project that he'd get some people to be
He's-
interested in
Yeah,
it.
he said you'll get some competitive pricing, he thought. Because of your location, because of the size of the project, and it's not construction with a footprint, expanding your footprint, it's
Gotcha.
retrofit work that he said it makes it a little bit more, I don't know if enticing is the right word, so.
Okay, do we need to motion anything, or are we good?
No, I think we need, because we've never,
Never approved this?
We've never signed
Okay.
the quote before.
Okay.
So,
I'll move to approve the engineering quote by Ace Engineering.
okay. I've got to accept it in the amount for the, to design the HVAC project in the amount of $74,760 and the LED lighting project in the amount of $15,920. Does that sound good, Matt? This number, I mean, I don't know why the 2,000 is up, but, okay, I need a second.
Second.
Roll.
So you're gonna ask about that? The
About
price
the why the
difference?
13,920 and the 15,920. Did he ever give us an explanation on
I
that?
don't know if we got 100%. I mean, I can.
Ask, will you ask him, please?
We can
Yeah,
ask
I
him.
think that makes sense. It's 2,000, 2,000, 2,000, I don't know. Maybe he forgot his number.
The prices of things have increased, that going down a little bit.
Yeah.
But it's weird that the one didn't change, the one did.
Yes.
Well, and it's a good question to ask, Jill, because I don't know that it's required anymore on his part. I mean, if he quoted you one time to design an LED
Right.
project for 13, why now is it 50?
Yeah, maybe it was
What has
an
that done
error.
for his work?
Maybe
I
it was
don't
just an
know.
error. Who
I
knows?
don't know.
Yeah.
And
he
I'll
would-
put in the motion here, and I'll change it not to exceed
Yeah,
those amounts. How's that sound?
okay. All right. We have nothing for executive session.
We need to vote. Any other, all in favor, say aye.
Oh, aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, motion carried.
So nothing for executive session, so I think we can adjourn. At 8:06.
Need a motion for that, Craig?
Yep.
So
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Who moved?
I did.
Sorry. Nebel, second by Schoenfelder. To adjourn at 8:07?
7, right?
Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried.
Do you need this?